We're talking about unidentified kinetic, whatever they are, flying around our atmosphere or even lower, 20,000 feet, and the U.S. taking action. And Ric Grenell's joining us. Of course, he's our senior advisor on international affairs and global issues. And Rick, you were also the director of national intelligence. So the one thing no one understands here is we've now had 4 encounters. This is the first time NORAD, by the way, has ever deployed weaponry inside U.S. airspace to protect the homeland, basically. They were authorized during 9/11. They didn't have to utilize it here. You've had 4 encounters. One of those encounters ends up over Canada, where we had to have a joint operation with the Canadians. They authorized us to take down the object. What is going on here in your view? And answers from the administration are frankly nerve-wracking. Gaps in communication, gaps in our intelligence, pilots saying it looked different to two pilots describing the same, whatever this unidentified object is, look different. So, and of course, they're moving it, Mach 1. So I get all that, but it's very concerned. We're getting a lot of calls from American people that are concerned about what is really going on here.
Well, first of all, we're not getting answers. Be very clear that Congress needs to get more aggressive about getting these answers. Normal people look at the situation, Jay, and they say, I don't understand why in the original spy balloon, we waited till it crossed all of the United States before shooting it down. And now we're aggressively going and shooting down objects. It seems like the administration is scrambling that they originally made a mistake and now we're making up for it. I think they've got to come clean. And I'll say this, I've said it before, but I think that the opposite of America first is consensus with the Europeans or consensus with the Chinese. And Joe Biden has demonstrated time and time again that he would rather have a calm relationship with the Chinese than putting America first. I believe that diplomacy is about pushing forward what's best for America. Shoot down the spy balloon, figure out what's going on, and then have diplomacy come and try to say, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And have our diplomats push forward this idea that we put America first and we will articulate America first policies to our friends, allies, and others.
Rick, one of the things I thought about is if we know the first one was authorized and implemented by the Chinese Communist Party. That's clear. So you wonder then, we don't know the origins of these others, and the military is being very careful saying we don't know the country of origin. But just for the sake of this discussion, let's assume it's the Chinese or someone working with the Chinese Communist Party. Could this be a test to see how far they can get into U.S. airspace and to see what our reactions would be? Because they got away with the first one. Like you said, it traversed the entire continent of the United States where we are located. It went right over here, by the way. I mean, it flew right over where our studios are, right down to the coast in Hilton Head. I mean, it looks like to me someone's trying something, or like you said, we're just more sensitive to it now. But either way, it's not a good sign.
So I want to be clear that I don't know exactly what's happening. I've refused to be briefed on the issue because I feel like the administration is scrambling to try some Trump officials to help them out here. But my gut reaction to what's happening, based on the knowledge that I have, is that this has been going on throughout the Biden administration. They got caught by allowing this spy balloon to cross throughout the United States. Remember that they knew it was happening for a while before the public knew. And so they were trying to hide it from us. And it probably would have continued to go back to China with all of the information if the public hadn't become aware of it. So I think that all of the other objects that we're seeing, it looks to me like it's part of the same strategy, but we're just now finding out the extent of the strategy. And there are individuals who are beginning in the intelligence community to come forward and share information because they realize that the Biden team, led by Abraham, is not being open and honest about what's really at stake.
Yeah, Rick, I think one of the big concerns people have is just sort of that lack of transparency, is not being comfortable with how this administration is handling any of this. It's not necessarily even in what it is or what's flying above us and sort of the conspiratorial nature of this. It's more everything feels unsafe. It feels out of control. And that's a big concern of the American people, big concern to me and my family, because what it makes you do, it doesn't necessarily make me go, oh, are there aliens coming to invade? Oh, is it China coming? You're obviously concerned about that, but I also go like, is it safe for me to be, doing a flight across the country when they're not checking that there's, something at 40,000 feet? Those are the kind of things that start to creep in your mind because there is this general feeling of an unsafe nature coming from this administration. You don't feel secure.
Look, I think that what you're really getting to, and we've talked about this before, is that the intelligence community has a credibility problem. They've selectively leaked information for partisan purposes. We saw them do Russia collusion narrative. We heard them say that if you move the embassy to Jerusalem, there'd be World War III. The opposite was true. We actually had peace accords when we did it. And so the intelligence community has a real credibility problem. And this is one of the things that I said to our great intelligence officers who are being impacted by the selective leakers. I told them that they have this credibility problem and they alone can fix it. They have to come clean with the American people and be transparent. Transparency is not political. It will help the American people believe in the system and in the processes. Right now, Avril Haines is being criticized by Democrats and Republicans because she's not transparent. This is a real problem.
Well, talking about transparency, Rick, we filed a Freedom of Information Act demand with the National Archives on the whole Biden documents issue to find out what's going on. And we got, actually, shockingly, without having to go to federal court, I think they realized they had to respond to us because we're on top of this. We've engaged in it. So I'm holding my hand. This is our first tranche. What is fascinating in this first tranche of documents is, unbeknownst to anyone else, as the Biden administration says how transparent they are, there was another search. And this was of a law firm in Boston that evidently represented the president when he was vice president or when he left when his administration was done with Barack Obama. And this was a law firm in Boston that had documents, and they got these documents in early or mid-November. And then 2 weeks later, they put that special counsel on top of Donald Trump, got the search warrant. They knew already that they were into location 4 for the Biden documents.
Thank God we've got ACLJ on top of this that's pushing the government to be transparent. If it wasn't for ACLJ, we wouldn't be knowing this information. So thank you to all our supporters. But I think there's another angle to this, Jay, because the Biden documents, when he left as vice president, did not go to the Biden Center immediately. It took like a year and a half before they showed up there. I think we need to know where all of those documents were before they went to the Biden Center, because we now know that the Biden Center contained classified information, which means that interim place where these documents were for a year and a half also had classified information contained in that space. Where is that space? Where were they?
Rick, the whole thing's interesting because I think Merrick Garland unleashed a torrent, and it's been a disaster. He put a special counsel against Donald Trump, executed a search warrant. Then, as he already knew that there were document issues with the current president of the United States, then he goes to the president of the United States saying, we got to have your documents because you've got documents you're not supposed to have. And it comes out that if his lawyers didn't consent to it, they were going to get a search warrant against the sitting president of the United States. And while all that's going on, and Mike Pence is, and I'm friends with Mike Pence, he's criticizing Donald Trump's handling of the documents, and he's got documents at his house. So it tells me this, okay? The National Archives does not know what it's doing. We're getting to the bottom of it, which is what Merrick Garland should have done instead of issuing criminal process.
100% true. They are being partisan. They're weaponizing DOJ and the FBI against Republicans. We see this time and time again. And, I just have to say this, Jay. Donald Trump outs them every single time. Every time they say that Donald Trump is doing X, Y, or Z, it turns out that his political enemies are doing it worse, and DOJ and the FBI tried to cover up for it. So I think that we've got a mess on our hands, and I'll say it again, but we elected Republicans to get aggressive, to have hearings, to come to the conclusion, to be transparent, to push for transparency. They got to get to work because there's a lot here.
There is a lot here. And you know what? The 2-year window that they have to do it goes by in a nanosecond. Rick, we appreciate it.